Hello. Hi, how are you? Thank you for joining me today, guys. I was looking up some stuff about European driving, and the laws and stuff, and I came across average speed check. And I just have no idea what that is. This video is called, Can You Speed in an Average Speed Check? I don't know what that means. What's an average speed check? If I had to guess, they're measuring your speed at different times rather than just at one time. I don't know what the implications of that would be. I guess that's better than just measuring it at one time, because maybe they say, oh, he was only speeding for a moment. Give you the benefit of the doubt, Can you speed in an average speed check? Okay.
Average speed checks are becoming more and more common on our roads. And if you're lucky enough to live outside the handful of countries that use them, I'll bring you up to speed.
I am, apparently.
Like a traditional speed camera, average speed cameras always work in pairs. And they cover motorways, city centers, and country roads, making sure that you don't speed. As you're driving along, you'll pass by camera.
I mean, I hate that in general. That really feels like somewhere Orwellian. In general, just cameras watching your every move. There's something I just don't like about that, but all right.
A, which will take a photo of your license plate, your car, and the time to the nearest millisecond. And then further down the road, maybe a half mile to a mile or so, there will be camera B, which will do exactly the same thing.
It's kind of sounding like what I guessed.
Then by doing some basic GCSE level math, by taking the time it took you to travel between the two cameras and dividing it by the distance, your average speed can be calculated. Hence the name, the average speed check. Now, while they're great at making sure
I would say overall that's a more fair system than just checking your speed at a single moment, for the reason I already said, If you're speeding just for a second to get around someone or something, it kind of sucks if you get pulled over in that moment. Even though that's technically illegal, it's like, not in the spirit of the law. So to do it this way, even though it's still Orwellian and annoying, let's continue.
Everyone drives at the speed limit, I personally hate the added stress that they bring to driving. And I actively try to avoid roads that have average speed cameras on them, not because I speed, but because it turns driving into a foot balancing act. And sure, if you had cruise control, it would be a lot easier, but me with my little Suzuki Swift, I don't have that luxury.
Wait, you don't have any cruise control? I'm not familiar with this brand. This is not in America, this Suzuki or whatever. They make cars without cruise control? I'm pretty sure every car. I think that actually might be a regulatory standard here in America. I'm not sure. Maybe not, but every car I know of, going back a long time, has cruise control. In fact, my car has cruise control to where it slows down for the people in front of you, which is really nice. That would be very helpful in these average speed checks. But one thing I'm wondering right now is, I wonder how fast above your average speed you'd have to be going to get a ticket. Surely it would have to be at least, 5-10 miles an hour. Here in America, everybody drives 7 miles per hour over the speed limit. Everybody. Nobody gets a ticket for that.
But putting that all aside, perhaps the most infuriating thing about an average speed check zone is that there always seems to be someone overtaking you above the speed limit, which honestly got me wondering, is there something that I'm not in on? And how accurate are average speed cameras?
Well, as long as they overtook you and then slowed down, their average speed would still be the speed limit, if they did the math.
And just before we start, I am not condoning speeding in an average speed check zone. This is for educational entertainment purposes only. The myths. While researching this topic, there were 2 points that came up again and again. The first one being that if you change lanes, you can trick the average speed cameras, which is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. The fact that the government can track all our phones to see our locations, you think an average speed camera can't see that you've shifted lane?
Wait, they can check all of our... I mean, I know that they secretly do that, like the Five Eyes and stuff, the NSA. They can do that, but in the UK, are they actually doing that? They're checking... They have access to all your locations?
Are you crazy? And secondly,
without a warrant?
They're not on at night. Average speed cameras are fitted with infrared lights so they can see your number plate. So no, you're not going to get away with speeding at night. With that now out of the way, let's focus on the real question. speed. And those who do in an average speed check either fall into one of two categories. Group 1, the super speeders. The first of those are those who speed well over like 60 and a 50. And as I've personally noticed, they're almost exclusively driving company vans, Range Rover Evokes, or a car that looks like it's about to fall apart with no
Now that's an American car right there.
company vans,
The Range Rover. There you go.
Rover Evokes, or a car that looks like it's about to fall apart with no MOT and no insurance. And to be honest, all these people just don't care about the fines. Either the car
So are the fines just automatically sent to, like, mailed to you? God, that sucks.
isn't in their name, or they'll just pay someone else to take the blame, claiming that they weren't driving at the time. Which sure is super illegal, but people do it. And even recently, the member of
That's smart.
Parliament for Peterborough was caught doing it, where she paid off her lodger to take the blame, but then getting caught because his passport records show that he wasn't in the country at the time that she went through the speed camera. Like, what? Group 2, the law abiders. The other group of people are those who speed very minimally, about 3 to 4 miles an hour above the speed limit.
Interesting he said miles per hour. I expected kilometers per hour.
And it seems to be that they can get away with it due to 3
Why did he use that unit?
main factors. Factor 1, lying speedos. The first is that every speedo in every car is under recording your GPS speed, which is the one that the speed cameras read. You see, speedos in cars base your speed off the wheel rotation. Hence, if you've ever wheel spun or ice or mud, you would have seen your speedo go way up over 100. But yet, you're not going anywhere. Car manufacturers by law can't underreport your speed, so instead they overreport it. And the law states, to be on the safe side, that it can be 10% plus 6.25 miles an hour. So effectively,
That's a shit ton over. Most cars are like 1 mile per hour over.
your car could be reading on the speedo that you're traveling at 50 and a quarter miles an hour, but in reality, you're only traveling at 40. Now,
That would be insane.
that is on the extreme end, but research by Auto Express found that most cars are underreporting by 1 to 2 miles an hour compared to their actual speed. A minor difference, I know, but enough for you to go a little bit faster.
Which at least makes you feel, that's good for the driver's mental health. Because then they feel like they're going a little faster, like they're getting away with something, even though they're not. I appreciate it.
In an average
It's like setting your clock ahead so that you're not late.
speed check. Factor 2, Bendy Rhodes. The second is that average speed checks are rarely conducted on straight roads. Every road, whenever you like it or not, is going to have a slight curve or bend to
Why?
it. So, for the cameras to be as accurate as possible, they have to assume that every car has traveled the shortest distance possible between the two cameras. So what does this mean? Well, similarly to why runners are stacked on a racing track, is when they get to the corner, the inside
That is a super interesting point I did not think about.
runner will be traveling a shorter distance than those on the outside. Hence, in an average speed
So you could speed, but you have to cut in on the turns every time. Or no, you have to take the long way. So you're taking longer despite speeding.
check zone, increasing the average speed. Now, this is going to be very lenient on where the cameras are located, but it's certainly going to make a very small difference, maybe a few miles an hour, to your actual recorded speed when you go through an average speed check. And factor 3,
A few mile per hour can make a big difference. That's a lot.
the 10% plus 2 rule. Thirdly and finally is the infamous rule of 10% plus 2. It's widely reported that speed cameras don't clock you if you observe the 10% plus 2 mile an hour rule above the speed limit. However, I'm going to be honest, this is incredibly wishy-washy and there is absolutely no proof that this is real.
Well, somebody knows if it's real. Either the people who write the tickets or the people who program those speed cameras. We need someone to speak up because that would be very good information to know.
Or true. So for this, I'm just going to leave it out of the equation and focus on the other two factors as being a little bit more realistic. So, in conclusion, if I'm traveling in an average speed check zone, I can likely go 1 to 2 miles an hour above the speed limit, accounting for an incorrect reading in my speedo and curvature of the road. But anything higher is going to be risking it. And just to be clear,
Gosh, here in America, if you only went 1 or 2 above, you're considered to be going quite slow, especially on like a highway or a multi-lane road. Of course, people can just go around you, but still, you'd be the slowest one out there. Luckily, here in America, we don't have to deal with very many speed cameras. There are some red light cameras, none where I live, but there are some in America. I don't know of any speed cameras in America. I'm sure there's some somewhere. But yeah, I'm glad I don't have to think about this stuff.
I'm not condoning speeding, and there is absolutely no excuse for speeding in a construction zone. So, with this whole video, take it with a pinch of salt, and hopefully it's answered those questions about how people always seem to be overtaking you in an average speed check. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time.
Interesting. I want to know if that 10% plus 2 is true. That's what I want to know, even though it doesn't even affect me. I just want to know if it's true. Because that's somewhat reasonable. You know, if it's 60 mile per hour, you could go 68. And that's the upper limit. That's reasonable. Everybody's going at least 5 miles an hour over here in America. All right. Well, that was very interesting. I am sorry to anybody who has to deal with these average speed checks. Go check out Handbrake. That was a good video. Oh, he's only got 3.58 subs. 3.58 thousand subs, I mean. Yeah, that was a great video. Thumb that up. Link down below. Yeah. And I'll see you guys. Have a great weekend. I'll see you guys next week.